Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the latest edition of the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Elyachar, the chief content producer and writer of jakestake.com, a pop culture entertainment news website. Now, if you're watching us on our YouTube platform, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to this to my channel, please. I really appreciate it. And also, if you're listening to this on our audio platform, please give us a 5-star review. Download this episode and more episodes. And thank you so much in a few prints. I'm very excited because we have the first part 2 in ages in the podcast. Back in March, Gerard and I had an incredible conversation on Zoom. And just to let everyone know, if you haven't had the opportunity to introduce Gerard. Gerard is the founder of the Underground Music Collective. And unfortunately, my Zoom wouldn't allow our conversation to continue. So this is the reason why we have a part 2. Gerard, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me back. I'm glad we get to continue. Part 1 was a lot of fun, and I'm glad we get to go even more in depth. So I appreciate you welcoming me back for a part 2.
All right. And guys, if you want to listen to part 1, head to Jake's. And if you haven't listened to part 1, I advise you, this is the only time I will ever do this, to go back and listen to jakestake.com and to our first interview. I'm going to give you a count of 5 to 5 to go back and exit this interview for now, or put us on the same thing for now, or pause right now, and then go back. So 5 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 1 Mississippi. I think I gave them enough time.
Yeah, they had time to decide what they wanted to do there. So yeah, I think we're good.
All right, let's continue part 1 of part 2 of our conversation. So a few months after part 1 of our conversation, the Underground Music Collective revealed the creative agency at UMC. So can you describe the UMC creative agency to my audience?
Yeah. So this came about, the idea was in the works the last time we spoke, but we weren't quite ready to reveal it yet. I was still working on the details of it. And so this is something that came about, because I've freelanced for years, right? I'm a photographer, social media strategist, and content creator. I'm an artist coach, and the artist coaching has kind of come as a byproduct of those other things. But I started to realize around January that my bandwidth was running low. And also people were asking me, hey, do you do this? Do you do that? And it wasn't always things that I do. Like, for example, I'm not a videographer, right? So I couldn't help them there, but I started thinking, well, how do I handle all these requests that we're getting? And then also how do I handle the things that I personally don't know how to handle, that the skills that I don't have. And so I was just racking my brain over it one night. It was just midnight. I'm texting a friend, just trying to think of how to get over this hump. And it just came to me what if we had a creative agency of freelance UMC verified creators who could jump in and handle these requests for us. So it was an idea that got me out of bed. I ripped the covers off. I'm up till 3 a.m. I'm brainstorming. I'm writing it down. I'm coming up even with the workflows and pay structure and everything, how this idea would work. And I was running the idea by some folks, over the next couple of months, just getting their feedback on it. Hey, will this work? Yeah, this will work. Maybe change that, maybe tweak this. And then around March, I started actively going out and trying to recruit folks to the agency, to pretty much be listed, as a UMC verified creator that you can book through us. Right. So we, in the spring, started that process and really put it together. And on May 1st, we launched the creative agency at UMC. And so basically what this is you can book these folks through us. We have photographers, videographers, we have graphic designers, web designers. We even have a couple of musical instructors. And you can book them through us and get quality service vetted and vouched for by Underground Music Collective. And the additional benefit to that is after the project's completed, we will then feature it on the blog end. Of course, the blog being what brought us to the dance, where we still post our daily reviews and features and UMC 20 playlists and the Quinn Spinn podcast as well. And so there's getting this amazing professional work from these verified creators, and then you get the extra marketing boost of the UMC platform. And so this was an idea that just struck me as soon as it came. And so far, we've had a lot of interest from folks wanting to come in and work with us for sure. We're definitely still building it out. Of course, we want to incorporate more things as time goes on, want to start to get, some audio engineers, who can help with your mix and master, that kind of thing. But it's been really encouraging to see the feedback we've gotten. Of course, our UMC coaching program, which I launched in March on my birthday, is part of this as well. And I'm able now, to refer my coaching clients to, hey, like, do you need this service? Do you need that service? Use one of our folks. And it creates this amazing ecosystem, right, of creatives working together. It's true to our philosophy of the rising tide raises all boats. And so I'm really excited about it. It's one of the many things we've been working on and iterating on over the past several months. And, we'll continue doing that, of course, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on as we keep building.
That's incredible. That's pretty amazing, to say the least. It reminds me a lot of my friends over at the Freelance Exchange of Greater Kansas City. So shout out to my mentor, Julie Cortez, and her crew. Julie is actually a freelancer who's going to celebrate her 25th anniversary in a business. So
Wow.
She has actually created the Freelance Exchange for us in Kansas City that brings together graphic designers, photographers, so on, social media people, publicists, so on and so forth. So it definitely sounds like yours, but for music base.
Yeah, 25 years. That's some grit right there. So if she's listening, I have to give major respect there. And it's cool to see ideas like this, happening in other markets too, because at the end of the day, I feel like we as creatives, whether you're a musician, whether you're a content creator, whether you're a coach, publicist, any kind of entrepreneur, right? Like, we're all trying to build our platform, and we all start it from zero, right? We all start from absolutely nothing but an idea. And so to have these people joining forces and bringing their skills and their disciplines together is really exciting to see. And 25 years, I mean, I'm hitting 10 this summer. 25 is like a whole different beast. So major respect going out there to Kansas City.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Julie. Thank you so much for the Freelance Exchange. So let's get started. Let's go back to you and talk about this, because as you know, some of my freelancers might be listening to this, or people who are or not associated with freelancing might be listening to this. So you're looking for videographers, photographers, graphic designers, web designers, so on and so forth. So can you describe your ideal candidates?
Ideal candidates are people who are not only skilled and well-versed in the products and services that they provide, but people who do it with passion and a purpose, people who want to help the artist achieve their artistic vision. It's very important, to make sure that we're bringing people on. This has always been our MO at UMC, doing good work for the right reasons, doing work that's collaborative in nature, doing work that helps everybody achieve a shared vision, doing work that helps elevate the art that's taking place, and helping the artist, the client in this case, to elevate their voice and to speak their truth in whatever mediums that they're communicating that, right? So, whether that's through their visuals, whether that's through their music, whether that's through any content that they're putting out there, to make sure that it's on brand, that it's in line with their values, with their artistic vision. And that's something that it reverberates throughout the UMC platform right now. The basis of the UMC coaching program, which, serves a lot as the point for the agency, the point of origin for it, right, is to make sure that we identify those things for the artist. We help them discover that for themselves, rather, your values, your mission, and your vision. And how does everything you do reflect that? How does everything you do stay in alignment with that? Because you can feel it when you're off purpose, right? You can feel it when you're doing things that are not in alignment with what you're here to do, with what you want to create. And so it's important to really nail that down in the beginning. And from there, let that inform the journey, right? And let that inform anything that we work together to create, whether that's within the coaching program, whether that is working with our verified creators at UMC. It's all rooted in your artistic vision, which is rooted in your mission, which are rooted in your core values. So it's really important, and that's something that I think in the industry sometimes gets lost, because there are a lot of people that say, it has to fit a certain box. It has to, your songs have to be 3 minutes long and they have to sound like this and your image has to be this. We don't want to control what your image is. We want to give power to who you are and how that translates in your art. So that's something that's just really important and core to our mission, is to make sure that your story is getting told in whatever way that you decide to tell it, to make sure it's being told in the best and most authentic way possible.
I gotta say, that's incredible. And I think it'd be interesting to see how, I would love to learn about how do you match each client with each member of your team, because it would be fabulous to learn about.
Yeah, so we have a whole process. So if you go on the website, you go to undergroundmusiccollective.com, you're going to see 2 tiles right now as of recording. The left takes you to the blog, which is what brought us to the dance, all your review content, UMC 20s there, interviews, all that. The right takes you to the creative agency. And so right now we have a bunch of tiles set up for our verified creators. And each one of them has a portfolio page. And each one of them has a contact form where if you fill out their form, we can match you up with them directly, right? So if you go on to somebody's portfolio page and you look at their portfolio, you read what they're about a little bit, you read their bio, and you're like, yeah, this is somebody I'd like to work with. You fill out the form, we put you in touch. And then from there, they take the consult and y'all get to creating, and then we also have a general form on the main agency page where, if you just want to get started, we can match you up based on your answers and based on that initial consult. So there are a couple of ways we can match you up. I mean, you can take the initiative to start that conversation with a specific creator, or you can come through us and we can help match you up ourselves. So it's really, as far as you want to go getting started, as far as that match goes, you can do that through our agency.
And that's wonderful, Gerard. You mentioned this program a couple of times. We got to talk about the coaching program, because you launched it as a one-on-one coaching service. So what can potential clients expect from UMC coaching if they hire you?
So you can expect to be directed in the direction of your values, your mission, and your vision, right? To be pointed in a direction that allows you to speak your authentic truth, that allows you to find ways to communicate that truth to your audience and genuinely connect with folks. I make a very important point at the beginning to start with the values. I think most people, think of mission, vision, and values in that order, right? Values are the core. Values are the core of everything that you do. So, because they are your core truths. They are the North Star that you carry forward into your everyday life. And when you're out of alignment with your values, everything else in your life falls out of alignment, right? And so we start with the values, then we start with the mission, which is what have you been put on earth to do, informed by those values. And the vision is, how does that mission, how do those values show up in the world? What does it look like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like? Who's there with you? Who's on your team? Who's in the audience? Who's by your side, right? And then so once we have that framework laid out, we start goal setting. We have our own adaptation of the SMART goal setting methodology. SMART, of course, is an acronym standing for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. And we set SMART goals, and then we work through them step by step to identify the resources that you have to accomplish them right here and now, the behaviors, the actions that you need to perform to accomplish those goals, and any pitfalls you might run into. And the trick with the pitfalls is every time you run into a pitfall, make sure you have a behavior, make sure you have an action to work around that pitfall. So if you get to a pitfall and you look at your behaviors and you don't see something that can help you get around it, it's time to think about what we can add, right, to get around that pitfall. And then from there, a big part of the game is accountability. A big part of the game is checking in with each other, holding you accountable to those goals, and of course, sparking new ideas as well. The great thing about the goal setting portion of this is we can set new goals and lay them out and structure them out anytime we want, anytime an opportunity comes up. Okay, what goal do I need to set around this opportunity? Okay, let's break it down, right? Let's break that down. And so that's a big part of it. It's also helping you strategize how to communicate your message, how to tell your story. I designed a course a few years ago which I'm actually reworking right now, called Perfect Your Pitch, which pretty much tells you how to outline your story and your artist brand in a way that's authentic to you, and then how to tell that story and communicate it through these different mediums and these different channels, right? As well as some fun tips on what not to do. That's my favorite section of the whole course. That's definitely staying in version 2. But because there are things you definitely shouldn't do, and I think it's just as important to know those as it is to know what you should do, right? Knowledge is power both ways. But so there's a lot of that storytelling, a lot of that branding, that goes into that, but it's all meant to keep your brand, keep your story authentic to who you are, what your values are, and how you want to show up in the world. And so that's the one-on-one coaching. But then in addition to that, we're branching out into group sessions as well. We're actually hosting our first one in Nashville this July, where essentially we're taking you through the foundational elements of the coaching program in a group setting. So you're getting interactive feedback, not only from me, but you're getting it from the other folks. You're getting to network with them and build community. And then, of course, if you want to take a deeper dive one-on-one, we can do that from there. So we're doing that in Nashville, July 22nd, right here on the east side in East Nashville. Information's on our website right now. And in addition to that, going to look to bring that out to other markets as well. Of course, we launched, as I believe we touched on in our previous interview, up in Bethlehem, PA, looking at doing one up there maybe sometime in August, and just branching out from there and just bringing these resources, connecting these resources to creatives everywhere, and also connecting those creatives to each other. We have a lot of plans to do that, starting with the rest of this calendar year. And we can get into some of those as well, but because they go beyond coaching, they go beyond the agency. But there's, a lot of opportunity here to get in touch with what makes you, you, and how to present that to the world, and also how to connect that to other creatives. So it's a really exciting time for us, and we're really looking forward to helping and serving more people.
And that's incredible, especially since the last time we spoke, you did speak about Bethlehem as in your origin story. So I think those people better take advantage of that, because this kind of opportunity doesn't come up as often, especially in that area.
Yeah. And, it's interesting because we just, and I'm kind of going to take us on a tangent right now, if you don't mind. We're coming full circle, in a lot of ways in that respect. We just announced too that we're actually doing our first event in Bethlehem in 5 years, up in November at Steel Stacks. We're bringing a Nashville style writers round, which, if you're not familiar with the writers round concept, it's a series of songwriters sharing the stage, sharing their original songs, alternating, telling the stories behind the songs. And they even have a chance to maybe hop in and harmonize and accompany each other, if they can pick it up or if they know each other's music already. So it's really exciting to bring that to that community as well, and tie it all together. Again, what we're trying to do is, from our base in Nashville, is build out these pipelines, right? So we're trying to build out these pipelines to different markets to connect these creatives to opportunities here, there, and everywhere. And, in that respect, what better place to do it than the place where we beta tested this entire thing, essentially, right? Without the Lehigh Valley Underground days, there would be no Underground Music Collective. And it was always my intention to be able to bring what we do bigger, better, faster, stronger back to that market, but also to other markets like New York, LA, Austin, Denver,
Kansas City,
Wichita,
Oklahoma City,
all these places, and that's the thing, is to create this network, essentially creating our own ecosystem, our own industry that stretches beyond any one locale. So whether that's through coaching, whether that's through creative services, whether that's through events, of course, still we review music from all over the world. We take submissions from all over the world. It's this opportunity to connect to creatives, not only here in Nashville, but everywhere. And that's really, it's really gratifying, in particular, to be able to bring this programming back home, but also have that be a litmus test for, hey, where else can we start doing this stuff? Because there's potential everywhere. I've talked to folks in New York. I've talked to folks in Denver who are interested in maybe doing some events, Chicago, and it's just a matter of connecting those dots and building those relationships and making it viable and making it make sense. But, it's a really exciting time. And I think for everything that we've done so far here in 2023, the second half lends itself to a lot more exciting opportunities. And especially as we get into 24 and beyond, I feel like there's going to be a lot more cooking up that you're going to be hearing about.
And that's just amazing. That's just amazing. And I'm sorry I had to plug those cities, but however, especially with country music, those three cities, my hometown of Kansas City, Kansas City metropolitan area,
Yeah.
Wichita, Kansas, and Oklahoma cities. There are a lot of places with a lot of country and a lot of hip hop in those areas.
Right, right. And I think too, it's important that you did call those out because we don't just want to hit the major markets, right? There are talented people everywhere. There are talented people in every corner of this country, every corner of this world. And maybe they just don't have the connections or the resources or the industry knowledge, right? To really know what to do with that and to take that to the next level. So it's just as important, to connect with smaller markets or, markets that aren't considered traditional music markets, right? It's as important to do that as it is to connect to the larger cities, your Nashvilles, your Austins, your LAs, Chicago's, New Yorks, right? Because at the end of the day, you're going to create this stronger network. The more people you have in it, the more ideas, the more talent that you have in the pool, the stronger the network, the stronger the ecosystem is going to be, And so I don't just want to have this be like an exclusive thing to major markets. I want this ecosystem to thrive wherever it can thrive. And the answer is it can thrive anywhere because there are talented people, talented artists and creatives everywhere.
Absolutely, absolutely. So speaking of one of those cities you mentioned earlier, you had the opportunity to record an interview with the Passage for Profits podcast or radio show and the show at iHeartMedia's headquarters in New York City.
Yes.
So what did it mean to you to be in one of the biggest media companies' headquarters? And did you find any inspiration from your visits?
Oh, tons, because it was a full circle thing. I mean, so just to kind of give you a little bit of a deeper dive into the history, back when it was just the Quinn Spinn, early before Lehigh Valley Underground, before Bethlehem, we were just a bunch of underemployed podcasters in New Jersey and New York, right? And so we were trying to find our way, and we thought, the show could be that way, And little did I know that it was in a way I totally never would have expected, but that would unfold in the years, ensuing. But I remember, we launched the show in 2013, 2014, me and Scotty Rock, my right-hand man, real name is Adam. We would go into the city, we'd interview artists. Like there was a little studio we'd rent, for cheap, and we'd interview artists, who would come in and be gracious enough to speak with us, even though like, who were we? We were doing this podcast for less than a year. And there was one day we were in the city and we had it in our minds. I brought demo CDs, like labeled in Sharpie, jank as anything. like we would have gotten laughed out of the room if we ever even got in the room. I brought demo CDs and we had an interview scheduled in the city. And the plan was after the interview, we were going to start dropping off these demo CDs to iHeart and to Sirius and like all these radio conglomerates. We never would have gotten past security. And eventually that day I came to my senses and realized that because I did, work for a Fortune 500 company where there was a security desk in New York, when I started the show. So I'm like, dude, let's not do this, But it was just like one of those, like, how do we get in there? How do we get in there? How do we get discovered? When we thought being discovered was a singular event, right? And so, we go through all these years and all these changes to the platform. The Quinn Spinn goes on hiatus, gives rise to Lehigh Valley Underground. The show becomes a part of that. I moved to Nashville. And then, during COVID, like Scotty and, all the other co-hosts, they come back into the fold when we were doing these like virtual episodes during COVID, which we still hop on and do once in a while. And then all of a sudden, we have this opportunity. I have this opportunity to go to New York and be a part of this amazing radio show at iHeart headquarters, and they gave me the option. Well, you could record from, Nashville over Zoom, or you could come to New York and, we'll do this whole promo package. And I'm like, sold, coming to New York, doing this thing. I mean, my family's in New Jersey, so it made sense. Like, logistically, I was able to make it make a lot of sense. And so the first person I call was my sister. And that was an amazing moment because she's a teacher. She was on spring break. All the kids are in the car. My niece and I are really close. And she got to hear it. Like everyone got to hear it. There was just so much excitement, right? The second person I called was Scotty. He's a teacher and he was on spring break too. And I knew that. And so I'm like, hey, guess what? And, we're talking and I'm just like, you know what? Like, let me see if they'll let me bring a +1 because I'd love to have you come and be a part of the day and document it. And they gave me the blessing to do that. They gave me the green light, the folks at Passage to Profit. And so 9 years almost to the day that we're walking around New York with these jank little demo CDs on burned CDs with Sharpie labeling, we're actually invited to iHeart headquarters to be a part of this interview that airs on 25 to 30 stations nationwide. It's repurposed as their podcast. And just to be there, I mean, I have to give a shout out to Richard and Elizabeth Gerhardt, who host the show, Kenny Gibson, who's a host on the show, and everybody there for making us feel so welcome, for being so accommodating. I mean, after we finished, the Gerhardts gave us a tour of the studio, and I'm getting to walk around and see the Z100 studios, the station I listened to as a kid, the Interactive 9 at 9, Elvis Duran in the morning show back when it was the Z Morning Zoo. I'm getting to see these stations up close and personal that I listened to growing up, because I lived in that market. And it was just this amazing full circle experience. And I mean, not for nothing, but being a part of the show was amazing too, because I got to be a part of this roundtable discussion with these incredible entrepreneurs. And I got to talk about this thing on this nationally syndicated radio show that I started in my childhood bedroom when I was 26 years old with a USB mic and a Dell laptop off of an idea because I needed an outlet from corporate America. So it was, and to boot, the kicker here is that station, the iHeart headquarters, is 5 blocks away from the Fortune 500 job where I worked when I started the podcast. So you want to talk full circle experiences? I'm 5 city blocks away from where I worked when I started this entire thing. And
that is Besheret. That is so Besheret. Basically, that's a term that my dad would use. It's a Jewish term for meaning and everything it's meant to be.
Yeah. And it's, I don't necessarily believe in points of arrival, there's always that next mountain to climb. And, right now, we're identifying the next mountains for us to climb, right? But that was definitely a milestone moment, to be at iHeart where, 9 years prior in 2014, we're just walking around the city scratching our heads like, how do we do this? Literally, having these conversations of how do we even get on people's radars? Well, it just takes a whole lot of work. It takes the right connections, and it takes not quitting. I mean, again, I'll have been at this for 10 years this August 17th, 2013 was the point of conception of this entire ecosystem with the Quinn Spinn. September 8th was episode 1. And I'm thinking about maybe unearthing some old episodes as we get closer to the 10th birthday officially. I don't know. I haven't decided. I got to listen to them, because it's there are definitely a lot of episodes that aren't on our feed right now, and I might prefer to keep it that way, but we'll see. We've just obviously come a long way, but to have had that experience and have had that opportunity, it was just something I'll never forget. And, it was funny because I went up to Scotty's. He lives up in the Hudson Valley. I drove up there so we could take the train in and kind of get our heads together, get our game plan together. We did an American Cancer Society benefit in June of 2014, probably about a month before that New York trip where we had the demo CDs. And we decided to do an opening number. Macklemore and Ryan Lewis were hot at the time with that album, The Heist, and it was Can't Hold Us.
Oh, yeah, that's a really good song.
Yeah.
With Ray Lewis.
Yeah. Mm-hmm, yeah. So guess what song comes on as I'm getting off the highway and making the turn into Scotty's complex? On shuffle.
Can't Hold Us.
I didn't cue it up, and I'm cranking that thing. I'm like, let's go. It couldn't have been a more full circle experience.
Besheret again. That is still Besheret. Full. That is meant to be Besheret, baby.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm so grateful to have had that experience. And now it's like, okay, what's next? What can we, we can keep building, if we can get here, sure. It took 10 years, but we can go as far as we want to go. And it just takes, going to the woodshed and continuing to evolve and adapt and continuing to find ways forward. And you know what? And one thing I want to just really impress upon your audience and anybody listening is those ways forward won't always seem like ways forward, because sometimes, it's that slingshot effect, right? Of like, you have to pull back and you have to assess in order to propel yourself to the next step. But that's just a natural part of this journey. I mean, I've had to do that so many times over these past 10 years, is just think about, okay, what am I doing and how is it helping right now? How is it helping us get to the next step? And is there something that I need to do better, right, in order to show up and serve that mission better, right? So much of it comes down to constantly assessing and adjusting the sails, and making sure there are no holes in your boat. And sometimes those holes are coming from you, right? Sometimes they're coming from factors outside of yourself, but it always is good to take that healthy look at everything that you're doing and finding the best way forward from there. And, when you do that, like, you're going to have these full circle moments, you're going to have these opportunities. The most important thing is committing yourself to the long-term vision of whatever you're trying to build, and realizing that it's a long-term vision for a reason. And it's because you don't get there overnight. I will tell anyone overnight success does not exist. And, it's a myth. It's something that, we might see in the media, somebody blow up, one day and, oh, they got there overnight. Well, you didn't see them sleeping in their car for 9 years. Like Lizzo's a great example of that, right? How, she toiled for years, negative bank balances, living in her car, strict fast food diet because that's what she could afford. And then a few years ago, she becomes this megastar and everyone thinks it just happened. It didn't just happen. It was all that work and all those trials and all those errors and finding ways to do things better. And no matter where you are on the journey, there's always going to be that next mountain to climb. There's always going to be that next thing that you need to figure out, but that you're going to be okay when you actually get excited about that, and I'm at a point in my journey where, like, yeah, there are challenges and there are stresses and there are struggles, and those never go away. But I have this sense of, well, I've been here before. Like anytime those things come up, like I've been here before. And I know that, any challenge that comes up, I'm going to meet it. The platform's going to meet it. And we're going to find a way to make things better and more sustainable and just more enriched, going forward. And so, yeah, I mean, again, kind of going on a tangent there, but that experience at iHeart just shows me, like, don't quit. Don't ever stop, just find a better way. Because if I didn't find all those better ways all these years, that would have never happened. You know what I mean?
I totally agree with you on that, because more recently I had the opportunity to go and actually cover a red carpet at Christmas Con at Overland Park. And it's basically, for those of you who don't know, Christmas Con is basically the gather is basically Hallmark's Comic-Con.
Mm-hmm. Right.
For people that, and had the opportunity to be on the red carpet and get interviews with Melissa Joan Hart and people like Cameron Matheson and Aaron Cahill, actors I grew up watching.
Mm-hmm.
And just amazing for that. I never thought I would do that.
Yeah.
I never thought I would be able to do and write an article about that. So, and not to mention the fact that Jake's Take in August is turning 12.
12.
Yeah, this podcast in November is turning 4.
Congratulations.
In November. Yeah, so it's amazing what you and I both have accomplished for all this time. So
if I can ask you a question.
Oh yeah.
To turn the tables, what's one lesson that you've learned in that time that you wish you knew at the start?
Don't compare myself to other people on your respective peers. And it's still a lesson I learned to this day. Is I have dear colleagues of mine that are rising stars in that, and in the field of reality television and podcasting. And I'm like, yeah, when I got like big names and everything, and I'm like, okay, I'm a little jealous there, but at the same time, I'm like, Jacob, I have to slap myself, because the grass is, remember, it's not always, the grass is always greener. You have to focus on your journey. And it's just amazing to be able to have the opportunity to interview several Got Talent winners, several people who've been affiliated with Big Brother or American Idol, The Voice. And even like recently I had Julian King come on, and he was one of the first team members on John Legend's first ever Voice team. So not bad.
Yeah. Yeah, you're writing your own story, you're on your own journey. And I think that's a really important point is comparison will steal your joy. Like it's a cliche, but it's a cliche because it's true. Like there are plenty of opportunities, that I see my peers having. And it's like, I catch myself sometimes like how do I, but then it's like, well, maybe that's not the opportunity for me. Maybe that's not the opportunity for the platform. They're on their journey. They're pursuing what they need, and I'm pursuing how to build this thing, how to build this very specific thing that's having its own impact, right? And we each, I think, have an opportunity to have our own impact if we're willing to really dig deep and assess what that means for us and assess what's true to us, because not every opportunity is going to be right. Even the ones that might seem, shiny, like that might give us that shiny object syndrome, when we get to them might not be the right fit, and so it's just really, understand. It comes back to those values again. It comes back to understanding who you are. It comes back to understanding what you want to set out to accomplish and going in the direction of that, and what everyone else is doing. Hey, if other people are succeeding, awesome. There's plenty of room for everyone to succeed, but you need to focus on what you're doing to drive your platform forward and to have your impact.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's talk about how we're speaking of drive and everything. You are also involved with something else that's been going on, and that is the race for Muscle and Fitness's Mr. Health and Wellness. So why did you want to compete in that competition in the first place?
So it's kind of funny because I kind of signed up by accident. I was on Instagram and I'm waiting for a food order and I'm scrolling just to pass the time. And I saw an ad, and I'm fitness is definitely a pillar of my life. Don't get me wrong. Like it's very much important to me and my journey and my own personal transformation over the past few years. But this thing, I just saw an ad. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll fill out this form. I'll see if they pick me. Yeah. We'll see. Next day, I get an email saying you've been hand selected. And I'm like, okay. So I go and I look into it a little more and I start seeing what it actually is. And I'm like, oh, there's a $20,000 grand prize and the winner gets to appear in a 2-page feature in Muscle Fitness magazine. I should take this seriously. And so I have, and as of recording, and I don't know the result of this yet, I'm in the quarterfinals of the entire competition, which I never expected. And there's a lot to break down here too. I never expected that. I'm just like, I hope I just last a few rounds and don't fall on my face here. But the support has been unreal. Like this is the first thing I've ever really attempted, like in the realm of fitness influencing, like that I've ever, the first ever serious attempt I've made. And like we've outlasted to this point. I say we because I have to give so much love to Team G out here voting, sharing the warrior votes every single day. Like we've outlasted established fitness professionals, people who have competed like professionally. And here I am, just this dude who, has fitness as a hobby on his Instagram, and we've outlasted 99% of the competition, which by my math, like there are 64 quarterfinals groups right now. And again, depending when this airs, we might be in a different round. Hopefully I've won or I'm on my way to winning. 64 quarterfinals groups. There are 8 people in my group. So I haven't looked at the other 63 groups because, that would take a lot of time. But by my math, that means there's 512 quarterfinalists, which means if we're in the top 1%, we've outlasted nearly 50,000 people. Just completely on the strength of organic marketing and my network voting and sharing this thing every day. And like, it's amazing to see the people from every era of my life who have been voting. Cause like, yeah, you have all the people that I've met through UMC and like all these endeavors. You have people I went to high school with, who I haven't seen since graduation or even before. You have people I haven't seen since I was a kid voting. You have people I've never met voting in this thing, and then so you could vote daily. And, it's free to vote daily. You could also do a double vote daily. You just have to like give them a debit card, but they charge you $1 and then they give it back to you if you wanted to do that. And then there are the warrior votes. where if you wanted to donate to Homes for Wounded Warriors, which is a project run by Jared Allen, who's a former NFL player, you could buy a certain number of votes, corresponding with the dollar amount. And then some days they do 2-for-1, where let's say you buy $10 worth of votes, you get 20. And so I've had unreal support that I never expected in this thing, to the point where it's like, we've raised to this point nearly $1,600 as of the day we're recording this. We're in the quarterfinals. We've outlasted 99% of the competition, which we could fill a stadium with the people who have been eliminated at this point. And I'm just like, all because of an Instagram ad that I just responded to and said, let's see what happens. And then I think there's a lesson in that too. Don't write anything off, and you never know where one opportunity is going to take you. And I've seen that show up for me so many times with this competition. With the podcast, I started in my childhood bedroom with a USB mic because I needed an outlet from corporate America, and everything in between. Like, you never know where that one little seed you plant is going to go. And now I'm thinking, no matter what happens with the competition, we've done something special. We're in the top 1% of all competitors this year. Like, what can we do from this? What impact can we continue to have? How can we roll that into UMC? Does Team G take its own life on, like a life of its own, and does it like grow into something even more? Like, the possibilities are endless, as far as the impact we can have. And I'm just thinking of what that looks like for whenever the competition ends for me, whether it's at the end of this round, which I hope it's not, because I hope it's on July 6th with my hand raised as the winner, but like, there's so much happening, and there's been so much growth in so many ways that it's dizzying in a way, like, it's almost like, am I ready for this? But then I look in the mirror, I'm like, well, you come this far, so what's stopping you? If you go from that point where you're starting a podcast because you need an outlet, and from the other unfulfilling aspects of your life at the time, to getting on iHeart and being a part of this competition and having all these amazing things happen, who knows where it can go, and like, it's amazing because I think back to like high school. I think back to like earlier than that, like, this was never supposed to happen. Like, some of the people voting in this competition saw the hot mess back then, and this was never supposed to happen. Like, who would have thought that I'd be in the running for something like this, So it's amazing, and I'm just enjoying the ride. And, I hope, again, that ride ends in victory. But even if not, I feel like in a lot of ways we've already won, based on the community we've built through this, based on the money we've raised, the people we've helped. And no matter what, we're going to continue finding ways to use this opportunity and this experience to help.
Absolutely. You're going to help a lot of people out.
Absolutely. That's always the goal, and if there's a way to tie it all together, we're going to find that way, so it's humbling, but at the same time, it's really, it gives me that supercharge of, okay, what's next? What can we do?
All righty. So there's a question I haven't asked you in our part one, but I was meant to ask you part one, but now we're getting to it. We're going to go back to music. So as we're nearing the end of the first half of 2023, in your humble opinion, who have been some of the breakout artists of the year and why?
Ooh, that is a tough question because we get so much music. we get so many submissions our way. One, I have a few artists, in my circle who I think are really making amazing moves. There's this artist, Arias, who is a dark pop artist. She came out with an album called Vices earlier this year. And it's based on finding empowerment through your vices and through the things that could control you. And it's a concept album as well. It takes you through the nine layers of hell, pretty much. And like each song represents a different vice, a different layer, right? But it's presented in this way that's empowering to let you know that you can push past these things and find your truth and become a better, more authentic version of yourself through that. So there's this artist 2-4 who I had on the Quinn Spinn, who he has a great song out called Freak This. It's just a great like cross section of pop and hip hop. And he's a podcaster as well. He has a Jams and Joysticks podcast. He's very much into gaming and very entrepreneurially minded. He's somebody that I definitely keep an eye on. I mean, I have to give A shout out to the Sunday Funday crew here in Nashville. That's Foundation Mecca, he's churning out content every week. He's doing Mecca Mondays where he's releasing a song or a freestyle or something every single week on his social media and his Spotify. Lord Goldie, my friend, who's an amazing artist, producer, manager, and just all around good soul. And then the guys in Vibe too. They're a dynamic R&B duo here. That whole circle, the Sunday Funday crew, they're always collaborating, coming up with something, whether it's hosting an event, doing something for the community here in Nashville, just putting Nashville hip hop on the map. I'm also really excited about my buddy Emery James, he's another hip hop artist, another person in that scene who's just so talented and multifaceted, in not only his music, but in his art. He's a videographer, he's out there hustling. I see him every day hustling, always working on a project. Firebird's another one. They're a brother sister duo from Australia, and they're like kind of this like dark industrial pop thing. We actually just had them on one of our shows here in town this past week as of recording, and they're just really dynamic, emotional, like heavy performers, and they just like bring this energy that just like radiates. Everything they do is always bathed in red, and like that, the power of that, just the power of the color red just like radiates through everything they do. So there's so many artists, and I know I just gave you a laundry list, but there are so many artists just making moves and just who have this just amazing sense of creativity and just spirit in who they are. And that's what we exist to serve. That's who we exist to serve at UMC, is those people who are making those moves and who have something to say. And there are so many of them. I named a few of them. I know I missed a lot, and I'm sorry if I missed you in this round, but those are just a few who, just as my mind gets going, who come to mind.
All righty. I definitely think that's a wonderful list. I may send some suggestions as well. I'll send, I know you mentioned Australia and dark pop. Lisa DeAngelis is fabulous. She's a really good sister with Blue Suitcase. Blue Suitcase is haunting, one of the most haunting songs I've ever heard. Theo Tams, who's up in Canada, is fabulous. He's been doing covers of Losing My Religion and everything. I've been featuring him on Jake Steak's Artist to Watch. He's fabulous.
Love it. I'll definitely have to check them out. I'll definitely make a note of that and make sure, because
and B Martin, he's an incredible hip hop producer as well.
Amazing. Yeah. And that's the thing, like all genres welcome, and from all locations, any genre, like bring them on, because we want to know about them. If they're, again, it comes back to that doing good work for the right reasons. If they're doing good work for the right reasons, then we want to know about them and we want them in our community for sure.
Absolutely. So we got to start winding down part 2. So where can my audience connect with you on social media? And where can I find more information if they're interested in joining UMC agency?
So go to undergroundmusiccollective.com. That's our central hub for all things independent music, community, creativity, and more. You'll find the agency there. You'll find all the blog content. You'll find our coaching program there. You'll find everything there. As far as social media goes, Instagram tends to be the one we focus on. So at UMC Nashville is our main Instagram handle. That'll take you to all the other things. And then there are a bunch of handles off of that. Quinn Spinn has its own Quinn Spinn official, 2 N's in Quinn, 2 N's in Spin. You'll see updates on the podcast specifically there. Nash Live shows, that's our events arm here in Nashville, is Nash Live. So you'll see what we're doing on the local live music scene. And you can also tune into the UMC handle for some event-related stuff, not only here in Nashville, but beyond, like that thing we're doing up in Bethlehem in November. And then if you want to follow me and get mostly UMC and fitness stuff, it's at Gerard Longo 12. And then, once I, break out of Nashville a little bit, there'll be a little bit of travel and family stuff in there. So if you want to get to know me better, you can follow me there. But UMC Nashville, that's the central hub on Instagram. That'll take you to everywhere you need to go.
Awesome. So guys, have you missed an episode of the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar podcast? If you have, you can check out our past episodes on Apple Podcasts, Deezer, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Podcast Addict, Spotify, and Spreaker. Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar, JCOBELYACHAR. Now, are you on social media? Because I'm on social media too. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Jacob Elyachar, JACOBELYACHAR. And did you miss Gerard's part one of the interview? I see you, part oneers. You missed it. Go back to jakes-shake.com. Once again, jakes-shake.com. Gerard, this was amazing. What a wonderful end to our conversation. And I know that 2023 is going to be a fantastic year for you.
Thanks so much for having me. We still got to get you on the spin too. We got to return the favor. So we'll be getting in touch about that very, very soon.
Absolutely, Gerard. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, have a great one, everybody. Goodbye.